What kind of career does Sidney envision for himself?
It's a tough one. I mean, that's so far away, but no, for sure, a nice NHL career with a few Stanley Cups and maybe Olympic gold medal, World Cup gold medal. I mean, that'd be I guess the storybook ending for an NHL career. But
this is an 18-year-old Sidney Crosby, and almost exactly 18 years later, he's accomplished everything that he's envisioned since day one of entering the NHL. Now, at 36 years old, most hockey players become a shell of their former selves, but not Sidney Crosby. In an era where NHL hockey is dominated by young and talented players who can operate at breakneck speed, Crosby has found a way to still be one of the game's deadliest players. Last season, the NHL witnessed history as Crosby clinched a 19th season where he averaged at least a point per game. That tied Wayne Gretzky for the most in league history. And despite missing a good portion of his prime due to concussion issues, Crosby's numbers are still keeping up with some of the game's greatest players. So how on earth does a 36-year-old score 40 goals and record well over a point per game in today's version of the NHL? Well, let's take a look at the film and break it all down. In the 2023-2024 season, Sidney Crosby finished 12th in NHL scoring with 42 goals, 52 assists for a total of 94 points. That may not seem like domination when you compare those totals to players like Kucherov, McKinnon, or McDavid, but when you factor in age, a supporting cast, and how he can impact the game on both sides of the ice on any given night, Crosby is still considered one of the deadliest players in the game. Now, in order to understand how his game has been able to translate so well into the current NHL, we have to break down how Crosby dominated in his prime. If you watch highlights from his game in his early 20s, you'll notice that Crosby has all the tools. Strong skater, low center of gravity, wicked shot both forehand and backhand, and of course, an incredible passer. But what made him the game's greatest player of his generation was his ability to marry all these skills together with his hockey IQ. Where the modern NHL has changed the most is off the rush. The sheer speed of the average player makes the quality of speed itself an incredibly important component to success. At 36 years old, Crosby decides to slow the game down to his pace, but it's actually something that he's been doing since day one of entering the league. In his first game in Pittsburgh as an 18-year-old rookie, look at how he creates space off the rush for his team without even touching the puck. Despite his timing being off to receive a pass, he drives the blue line as much as he can to drive back off the 2D and open up space underneath for the vet Mark Recchi to come in. Even though he doesn't have a great entry with him having to straddle the blue line and losing some speed, he takes advantage of that same gap when given the puck and zips a cross-ice pass to pick up an assist. As the years have gone on and the game has become physically faster, Crosby's mind has remained steps ahead. In his younger days where he was the top dog that can burn you with his speed and skill, Crosby opted to attack defenders one-on-one more frequently, sometimes even more improbable situations like this one-on-4 play. Crosby always had the skill to make the more flashy and risky play. But when you're consistently going up against the best players in the world, even the most talented players in the world will struggle to go through a defender consistently. Crosby realized that that type of style is a young man's game. And throughout the years, the fundamentals of Crosby's game off the rush was to slow it down to his pace. This play here was one of my favorite plays of this past season because of how subtly brilliant it is from Crosby. With Guentzel getting possession along the wall, a younger Sid may have stayed in the middle, received this pass, and attacked both of these defenders. But again, that's a young man's game, and it also takes his teammate out of the play. Instead, Crosby drives the rush without the puck and makes a similar play to that we see in his rookie year. He swings in between Guentzel and the defender to create a tiny bit of space for Guentzel to enter the zone. It's cycled down low to Crosby and then finds his way beside the net for his signature tip-in for the goal. All of Crosby's best work is done without the puck. And if you look at where he scored majority of his goals throughout his entire career, it's within 15 feet of the net. The way Crosby scored goals in his 20s is the same way he's scoring goals in his mid to late 30s. One area in particular that he's always dominated is beside either post. To tip in pucks like this takes surgical precision, but to do it while NHL defensemen are frequently trying to box you out is another level of sorcery. Often, as Pittsburgh has puck movement up high, Crosby is able to get lost on either side of the post to find the blind spot in coverage. Even when space is tight and passes are coming in hot, Crosby uses his entire frame to act as a backboard for a deflection. You combine that with his ability to time his arrival into the slot, it has become a staple of his game since day one and hasn't faltered one bit at age 36. Physically, players tend to see a drop-off around this age, but one area where Crosby still excels better than almost anyone is below the goal line. At 5'11", Crosby's height isn't a significant advantage, but being 200 pounds and having tree trunks for legs allows his puck protection and edge work to become extremely hard to stop. At his peak, Crosby was incredible at absorbing any oncoming contact and placing his body between the defender and the puck without putting himself in a vulnerable position. As defenders tried to impose their size on Crosby, he'd use a quick cutback to shake them off, and once he had a step, he'd drop his shoulder and use his bottom hand as an additional protection to swat away any oncoming sticks and clear a path. It's a hard and physical way to create offense, but Crosby is still more than capable of doing so at 36. Watch here, as soon as he picks up this puck, he knows that he will be met with pressure. He quickly fakes to his right and then explodes to his left, hoping to shake off Stahl, but that long reach starts to come into play. To counteract this, Crosby sticks out that left arm to clear his path, knock away his stick, and that opens up just enough space for a one-handed pass that finds its way into the back of the net. Here against a young buck in Caden Gooley, he completely cuts down the angle on Sid to keep him away from attacking down low. Bracing for contact, Crosby instantly shifts his body between Gooley and the puck and absorbs most of the contact. He leads with his right leg to buy himself a tiny bit of space and then gets it back to the point. After that, Gooley is strapped into a Crosby masterclass and ends up being on the wrong side of a highlight reel goal. Individually, all of the skill sets are still there to dominate at his age, but what's even more impressive is how integral Crosby is to the Penguins' offense as a whole. Last season, the Penguins led the NHL in goals from the point with a screen in front. That's because Crosby and the Penguins played a simple low-to-high system that thrives on his ability to hunt down pucks below the goal line and get it to his D-men. The best part of his game is, once again, his versatility in this area. At 36, he's still got the speed to be an effective F1 on the forecheck. Watch here as he perfectly plays the body on Rasmus Sandin. F2 comes into game possession and give it back to Crosby. Once Crosby has possession from this spot, then his IQ and wizardry just takes over and it ends up in a goal. But it all starts from his work as the F1. Where he's still the most dangerous though is as the F2 or F3. All throughout his career, Crosby has had a sixth sense in terms of knowing where the best play is before even touching the puck. As soon as the puck arrives to him off a quick turnover, Crosby already knows where he wants to put the puck next. Fast forward to 36, and Crosby still has the awareness to jump into these 50-50 pucks and instantly funnel it to a much more dangerous option. Sometimes, Crosby opts to carry it high into the zone while traffic develops in front, but most times, Crosby feeds it to the point and heads to the net himself for a high tip. It's a simple offensive system that is made extremely dangerous because of the dynamic abilities of Sidney Crosby. Now, the final piece to the Crosby dominance at his age is defense. Again, in an era where speed kills, Crosby usually negates any possible disadvantage by understanding the flows of an opposing offense and combining it with sheer effort. In his prime, he would recognize a threat and then use sheer will to come back and break up a play. Again, since the speed of the game has jumped to another level in the last 5 to 10 years, strong defensive positioning underneath the puck is key for Crosby to angle guys off and break up plays. Watch how quickly Crosby recognizes that this pinch is going south and busts back into the middle to cover. As this puck is advanced, Crosby takes an aggressive angle towards the puck carrier to avoid them building speed. By being ahead of the play with his mind, he narrows the speed and youth advantage of the current NHL. And as the game gets quicker every single year, the main quality that will equalize all the disadvantages of him being older will be how he's able to anticipate the game on both sides of the puck. As he enters the final stages of his career, Sidney Crosby's game has been aging like fine wine. And it's even more impressive when you consider how many players his age or older are starting to struggle with the overall speed of the current NHL. To score at a 1.15 point per game pace at 36 while putting up 40 plus goals is surreal production out of one of hockey's greatest superstars. Crosby's time as the undisputed top dog in the NHL may have passed. However, his intelligence has allowed him to dominate the league in ways that very few players can do in their prime, let alone at 36.